So, greetings and welcome to the 63rd session. Today we have with us Priyanka Sinha. She finished her graduation and post graduation from the Manipal University in Manipal, India. She has an experience in academics for many years. She has worked as a lecturer at Shankara Eye Hospital in Bangalore, and also at the Lotus College of Optometry, Mumbai. She is also a fellow of IACL. She's been awarded the FIACL in the year 2014, and she has worked as an in charge of the low vision department of the Shankara Eye Hospital, Bangalore. And she is also have the privilege to work with Lenskart as a senior optometrist. And today she is going to talk to us about what are the common eye disorders which are encountered in low vision, and how should we as an optometrist go towards approaching those patients. So welcome Priyanka onto our platform. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Fakhruddin. Thank you, team. So, a very good evening to all of you. So, today I'll be talking about the common eye disorders which are generally encountered in low vision, and we as an optometrist, how we are going to approach to these particular cases. Okay, so before starting, there's a small poll for you all. Please attempt that whether you think patient record alone is sufficient if you have to prescribe the low vision aids, or a consultation in a low vision clinic is required. So please vote. So around 87% most of you have replied correct. So whenever the patient has been referred to you, it's not only you are giving them the low vision care, but actually you are doing a psychosocial consultation. Depending upon the patient's need and requirement, you are prescribing them the devices. Suppose the patient has come, you just have the record of the patient, and you thought, okay, patient's near vision is N10, let me improve it to N8 or N6. But when once the patient has approached you, then you realize no, the patient is an illiterate and he doesn't have any near vision requirement, and he or she just wants to watch TV. Then instead of focusing more on the near vision, we should have focused more on the distance vision. So that's why only patient record is not sufficient. A, a visit to a low vision clinic is a must. There are few classes has already been done regarding the assessment of the low vision patients, and different types of devices which are generally prescribed. So I'm not going into detail in those parts, but just a quick recap. So once the patient has been referred to you, you already know what the diagnosis of the patient is. And then you are starting with your history part that will give you an idea whether the disease is progressing or it is non-progressing, which is again help you in choosing your devices and the follow-up of the patients. Then once you are moving to the assessment part, you are checking you are checking the visual acuity both for distance and near, recording the distance, which is very important. Then you are doing the refraction, a complete refraction, and then subjective acceptance. You are most of the time again you will be having a perimetry sheet with you, but then just to get an idea, we are doing either confrontation and even the Amsler grid test, and we are recording it, which is again very important. You can check your color, you are checking the color vision using different types of chart, and again checking contrast sensitivity using Paley Robson's or Leah symbols, whatever is available with you. The next important point is checking the glare. So how you are checking the glare? You are shining a light source near the visual acuity chart, and if you saw that there is a significant decrease in the visual acuity, approximately 2 line, then you can say the patient is having significant glare problem. That will give you an idea. Anyways, patient is going to complain regarding that, but you yourself will come to know, okay, that patient is having significantly glare problem. Then next you are looking for the dominant eye. Checking this dominant eye becomes important, especially if your patient is one-eyed patient. And then an easy way to check is you just give them a telescope in their hand and tell him to hold in front of his eyes. So whichever eyes he's taking the telescope, that eye is the better seeing eye. So we as an optometrist, we will have to concentrate more on improving vision in that eye, And if we are prescribing any monocular device, we will be prescribing into that particular eye. Okay, so we all are going to do the refraction, which is like any simple refraction. But the problem comes when there is any media opacity or when there is any nystagmus, because in almost 90% of the cases you will get to see the nystagmus which is present. In cases of media opacity, you are doing the radicals retinoscopy, which has already been covered, I guess, in last classes. So you are going closer to the patient, even uh, 10 sorry, even very close, and then you are checking 10 or 20 centimeter, and then you are checking the uh, looking for the glow, and then trying to neutralize depending upon the working distance what you have chosen. And then in cases of nystagmus, you will have to record it when the eyes is moving equally in both the directions, then you say it is a pendular nystagmus. And when the nystagmus is moving faster in any one direction, then you call it as a jerk nystagmus. So how to do the refraction in these cases? First we'll have to find out the null point. Null point means tell the patient to move their gaze in different directions, and wherever the movement is slow or almost negligible, that is the null point. So in that particular point only we are going to do the refraction. And one more thing, always we have to use the large aperture lenses, especially in low vision cases. Okay, so little bit about the current situation. So there are around 285 million people, those who are visually impaired worldwide. Out of that, 249 million has low vision, and 90% of them lives in the developing countries. So what are the barriers in the uptake of these low vision care? First of all, there is lack of awareness about the referral criteria. They don't know when they should refer the patient to the any low vision specialist, because most of the time when the patient has been referred to you, there is almost uh, there is very negligible vision, or all light perception is left. So at that time you cannot do much, you can't help actually other than rehabilitation. So you cannot improve the vision much in these cases. And the next important point is non availability of services. They don't know actually where to go and seek for these low vision care. But nowadays, thanks to internet, because most of the information are available online. So a bit about the current situation in India. There are around 62 million people, those who are visually impaired. Out of that, 54 million have low vision and 8 millions are blind. And you can see still uncorrected refractive error and cataract are the two most commonest cause of visual impairment. So here the role of an optometrist becomes very important, because most of these low vision impairments are either avoidable or treatable. So let's move on to the classification. We'll divide these diseases into either the congenital eye diseases or the age-related disorders. See, again, these disorders will help you to identify, because in most of the, not all, but most of the congenital cases are non-progressive one. And these age-related disorders are progressive one. So that will again help you when you are prescribing any devices to the patients. So there are many more diseases which are associated. I have listed few of them, like ROP, albinism, Stargardt's, retinitis pigmentosa, or congenital glaucoma. Again, in the acquired disorders, age-related macular degeneration, glaucoma, commonest one, proliferative diabetic retinopathy, stroke, or tumor. We'll further subclassify them into central field loss, peripheral field loss, overall field defect, and hemianopic field defect. See, again, knowing this classification will give you an idea, because you know once the patient has been referred to you, there is already a diagnosis has been made. So that will give you an idea. Okay, so this patient has central field loss. So you know that what will be the kind of problem they will be facing. Same way in a peripheral or overall field defect and in another cases. So in central field defect, there will be total or partial central vision loss. Could be in so many diseases like diabetic maculopathy, Stargardt's, ARMD, macular hole, degenerative myopia. So you will get an idea by doing Amsler field test. So that will give an idea how big is the central scotoma present. So what are the basic problems they will be facing? See, what problems they'll be facing, that depends upon what is the main diagnosis. So since their central vision is affected, so discriminating fine details will be very difficult. They'll be having problem in reading. Of course, photoreceptors are affected. They'll be having poor color vision. And whenever they are looking straight, it's difficult for them to recognize the people, whosoever is coming, and they'll be complaining of glare and photophobia. So how you are going to manage these cases? Our management plans always depends upon the problem what they are facing. Always we have to start with a careful and complete refraction. There is no excuse in this. We will have to always start with a complete refraction. And one important point which you can keep in mind, that suppose patient is already wearing a glasses and there is a slight change in your new prescription, then instead of asking them that look at the chart, look at the distance vision chart, please ask them to look at my face or look at your relative's face or any objects which is in the room, whichever is more whichever is looking much better with your glasses or the new glasses. So that way you tell them to compare, then that creates a positive vibes. They feel, oh yes, this is slightly better for me, so I'll go ahead with these glasses. If not, they'll say no. So don't tell them to use the distance chart, especially in low vision cases. Teach them the eccentric viewing technique, that is to use their extra foveal point to locate any object. Tell them to slightly turn their head, and instead of looking straight, tell them to use their peripheral vision and try to locate any object or somebody who is coming approaching from front or sidewise. Again, in magnification and for distance and near, which is must, you will have to find out which they are preferring, which type of devices they are preferring. We'll go more detail later on. So there are studies which has shown that NOIR 101 filter are especially more acceptable by the glaucoma, ARMD and RP patients. So what are these filters? They attenuates the excessive light to a comfortable levels, and that's how they reduce the discomfort and the disability glare and enhance the contrast. These filters provides the complete UV blockage, and different filters like CPF or NOIR filters, they absorbs a particular short wavelength of light which generally scatter in the ocular media, and that's how they reduces the glare. Same way these CPF filters, that is Corning photochromatic filters, they basically act by reflecting the blue wavelength of the light. So there will be a number which always indicates the spectral cutoff wavelength. With the CPF, it comes with a number. So below which all the lights are absorbed and above which the transmission of light occurs. So there are so many filters which are available. So suppose you have 20 filters in your clinic, but once the patient has approached to you, you cannot start doing your trial with all the 20 filters or tints. So there these charts are available even in the books as well, that always gives you an idea. For example, you see here this red or orange filters is basically accepted by retinitis pigmentosa patients. So instead of giving trial of all these filters, you can start always with these filters as a starting point. But be very frank that at the end it's patient who is going to decide. So it becomes subjective at the end, that with whichever filter patient is feeling better. But always this will give you an idea for the starting point. You can paste these kinds of charts in your clinic. Next is for distance, how you're going to prescribe a telescope. So you have Galilean telescope and Keplerian telescope. You know what are the disadvantages and advantages. We are generally using the Keplerian telescope much because it provides the more magnified views in different steps, and field of view is better compared to the, sorry, image clarity is much better compared to the Galilean telescope. So how you're going to determine the magnification? So before starting, please keep in mind that we have to achieve the patient glow, but the magnification should be as low as possible. And because if the magnification increases, there will be limitation of field and aberrations will be increasing. So always use the minimum telescope with which patient is happy or vision is improving. So how you're going to calculate it? You just need a patient's best corrected visual acuity and target acuity. So generally target acuity we are keeping 20/40 or 20/50. That is most of the time sufficient if the patient wants to watch TV or read the street signs. So you can just see here in this example, patient best corrected visual acuity is 20/200. So just make a, and target acuity is 20/40. So I have just taken the denominator, and that's how you have got the required or a starting point of magnification. Okay. Let's move on to the peripheral field effect. Again, there are so many conditions which are associated. Let's see the important ones like retinitis pigmentosa, coloboma, glaucoma, degenerative myopia, optic atrophy. So you know that when the periphery vision is not clear, they have central like a tunnel vision. So what problems they are facing? Again, we just imagine we are able to walk properly because our peripheral fields are intact. But if the peripheral field is not intact, we will have lot of bumping into object. Same way, the biggest problem these people face is mobility problems. Photoreceptors rods are affected, so they'll be having poor vision in dim light. Again, they'll complain of glare and photophobia. And another important problems what they face is their words get lost. That is, now suppose they are reading, but from where they have started and where they have to end, that line they lose because peripheral vision is not intact. So always teaching teaching the scanning head movement becomes important here. So that's why I told you, always the management plan depends on the problems what they are facing. Starts with a complete refraction. Go ahead with the magnification for distance and near. We'll be choosing reverse telescope, CCTV. I'll be talking later. For peripheral awareness, we'll be using prism or mirror system. And again, which I have discussed, CPF lenses, which improves the contrast. Please suggest them to use the flashlight. They will be having delayed dark adaptation because rods are affected. So suggest them to use the flashlight for night travel and explore all other non-optical systems. Again, depending upon their needs, like whether they wants to use the Notex or signature guide or the writing guides. Please always keep in mind that you have to use this non-optical system. Okay, so next is how you are going to prescribe prisms to these patients. So what we are generally using is the Fresnel prisms. Nowadays we are not using mirror system because cosmetically it's not look good, and even it causes the blind spot, so patient becomes confused where to see. So we are using the Fresnel prisms. So it's nothing but a 1 mm plastic material which is applied to the back surface of the spectacle lens. So how you are going to do that? Just clean the surface of the lens and then put little water on the back of these Fresnel prism, and because of the surface tension it will get stick here, and you will be always placing it on the non-seeing area of the patient in a base out form. We are always prescribing these Fresnel prisms in low vision patient in a base out position. There are different uses in binocular vision as well. So it is available in a steps of 1 to 30 prism diopter. where one prism diopter causes 0.57 degree. So frankly speaking, we are generally using either 20 to 30 prism diopter. So if you are using a 30 prism diopter, it will deviate the peripheral field by 17 degree. And please keep in mind to tell patient initially that this is just for your field enhancement, field awareness, and this is not going to improve your vision. Please make sure to tell this in the beginning. In cases like RP and glaucoma, surround field with the prism, leaving that central seeing area. So you'll be pasting it in a non-seeing area. So as there are so many advantages, there are certain disadvantages. It causes decrease in visual acuity, contrast, and it can even discolor over the time, and it can lose the surface tension and can come out. So same like Fresnel prisms, we have field expanding channels, which is like already made in a spectacle with the advantage of temporal, nasal and inferior awareness. So there will be two 12 diopter lateral prism and one 8 prism diopter inferior prism. So this is generally used by glaucoma and RP patients. And the one biggest advantage is you can incorporate patients both spherical as well as cylindrical correction into the glasses. Next, how you are going to prescribe the reverse telescope. So I'm sure you all know that we will be using this eyepiece as an objective lens, and objective we are looking through the objective lens. So that's how this becomes the reverse telescope. But then how you are going to prescribe these telescopes? So these reverse telescopes causes the minification. So always make a note that you will have to prescribe the minimum power. Don't suppose patients for distance patient is using 4x telescope, then you will be giving a trial with the same 4x telescope. No. So when the patient is looking through, for example, when the patient is looking through an objective of 2x telescope, this will increase the patient's field by 2 times. Patient was seeing 10 degree, then 20 degree patient now is able to see, but it will cause a decrease in visual acuity by 2 times. So this we have to keep in mind. So always go ahead with the smallest power with which patient is able to locate the objects and he is comfortable. And one more thing is, here you can even teach the patient to use the scanning technique. Suppose patient left field is around 10 degree. So tell him to rotate the head slightly, then he can scan another 10 degree, and again towards the other sides, then he or she can scan another 10 degree. So that's how very comfortably he can scan 30 degree. So please teach all these techniques to the patients. And the least expensive one, but the very important and the helpful one, using of a convex mirror or a concave lens. Please suggest all your patient to use these mirrors for the peripheral awareness. Either they can put it into their kitchen or their working area or their hall, wherever. So that always gives them an idea whosoever is approaching from behind. And because that will give you a minified view, they can see, okay, somebody is coming from behind, so they don't get that shock. So it is very least expensive one, so please suggest all your patients to use this. The third one is the overall blood vision. These patients have very difficult times because neither their visual acuity is clear nor the contrast is clear. So central vision is also affected, peripheral vision is also affected. Over that, it is generally associated with any media opacity, cornea or lens. So they'll be having lot of glare and photophobia in cases like keratoconus, cataract, corneal degeneration, vitreous hemorrhage. So these people have very difficult times. Again, depending upon their problems, what problems they'll be facing is like they cannot recognize the particular details of the anything, whether it is for distance or near. Peripheral vision is not intact, so they'll be having bumping into object. Neither they cannot read properly, neither they cannot write properly. So these are the biggest problem with these overall blood vision people. So again, in your management plan, contrast plays a very important role. You can see in the picture that how much contrast is different. It's always easy to locate objects, whatever is there. Please suggest them. I know we all are reading, but whenever the patient comes, we tend to forget. So please suggest them to like different kinds of cups or vessels or jugs in kitchen, so that it will be always easy for them to use their daily routine life. It will be helpful for them. Even in bathroom, they can use the different kinds of a bucket, different color of bucket compared to the wall of the bathroom, different colored mug, which is in improving the contrast. So please suggest them. Even when they are going out at evening or night, suggest them to carry a flashlight. Again, the filters helps to reduce the glare. Look out for magnification for distance and near, which is like same in all the cases. And these pinhole spectacles has seen to be very helpful in overall blood vision cases. So next is the hemianopic field defect. So you know that these kinds of a defect especially occur if the patient is having any tumor in the visual pathway, if there is any brain stroke. So basically, Fresnel prisms are very helpful in these cases. They'll be complaining more of a visual hallucination, because once they are trying to suddenly move their head, that non-seeing part comes suddenly into their seeing area. That is, blind spot is shifting towards their seeing area. So they'll complain of double vision, night vision, or they'll complain of hallucination. They cannot, like, they'll get confused suddenly. So please, again, you will have to teach them to slightly scan their head, and you can always suggest them to, you can prescribe them these Fresnel prism, which I told you, you will be placing these in the non-seeing area. Okay, so just to give you an idea that what are the different refractive errors which are associated with low vision patients. See, these always gives you a starting point, just an idea. Like for example, you know keratoconus very well, I'm sure, that it has high regular astigmatism, microphthalmos, high hyperopia associated. Corneal scarring, there will be moderate to high astigmatism associated. Same way, degenerative myopia, there will be high myopia associated. So these things always gives you an idea while doing the refraction. Okay, so next move on to the we have just seen how you're going to enhance the magnification for the distance. Let's see how we are going to give the magnification for the near. So we are enlarging the images on retina by stimulating the more retinal cells. So these has already been covered, that there are different ways: relative distance, relative size, angular magnification, and the electronic magnifications. So in relative distance magnification, as the name is indicating, once either you move closer or you are bringing the object closer to you. That's how you are increasing the magnifications. It is achieved either by the spectacle magnifier or the stand magnifier, which uses both the relative distance as well as angular magnification. So once you have to prescribe these magnification device to the patient, always keep in mind that suppose patient is an old age patient, uh, try to go ahead with the starting point, maybe you can say, with a spectacle magnifier. First of all, this looks very general, and then their both hands are free, because in mostly in old age people, they'll be having dexterity problem. So you can always go ahead with the spectacle magnifier. And if patient has almost equal vision in both the eyes, then you can think of going ahead with the binocular spectacle magnifier. And even it has basin prisms incorporated. Like suppose the spectacle magnifier is 10 diopter magnifier, then it will have 12 diopter basin prism incorporated to relieve the convergence. Or if patient requires more high power, then go ahead with the monocular spectacle magnifier. And these stand magnifier comes in fixed focus and focusable stand magnifier. So the advantage in focusable stand magnifier, it accounts for patients accommodation as well. So they can focus it for their comfortable distance, like comfortable view. So when with this stand magnifier, make sure you are prescribing them the slanted table stand. Then they can make use of this and they can read it for the longer time. So I have seen in my clinic that especially students prefer these stand magnifiers more, because it helps in prolonged reading, comes even with illuminated magnifiers. And when you are prescribing them this slanted table, they can use it for the longer hours of time. Next is relative size magnification. So here we are not using any lens. You can see in the picture we have just magnified the book itself. So example is the large print textbooks. Next is angular magnification, which is used by the telescopic systems and the handheld magnifiers. Electronic magnification. See, we are reading it everywhere. So make a point that you are, though it is expensive, but please suggest them an options of using video magnifiers. There are so many options available right now from different companies in video magnifiers. It provides you magnification even till 90-100x with a different polarity. So please suggest them to use these video magnifiers. Then it depends upon them, but always make a point that you are mentioning about these video magnifier, whether patient is a student or whether it's an old age patient. Okay, and one more thing is these different software, JAWS or Magic, it is assisted with speech. So even you can make your normal computer a magnified computer with the using these devices, which is with using these apps, which will help even in assisted, which is assisted with speech as well. Okay, so from where you are going to start your near vision trial, there are different rules. So make a point that from next time, whenever the patient is coming to you, you are not going to do a trial and error method. Always do a calculation as a starting point. So further you can increase depending upon the patient's need. So first is the Lebinson's reciprocal of vision, where you just needs the patient's best corrected distance acuity and the near target acuity. Again, target acuity we can keep either 20 or 20/50, which is account for your N8 print or 1M letter size. So whatever chart you are using, you can make sure you can convert it. And these conversion, again, it's available in the books. So suppose you have the best corrected visual acuity of patient is 2200 and target acuity I have kept as 20/50, which is sufficient if patient wants to read newspaper print. So just I have divided the denominator and here I have got the required initial magnification. So start with the 4x magnification. Next is the Kesten-Baum rule. Here we are using the distance acuity to predict the near magnification, same like other Levinson's rule. So here you just need the patient's best corrected visual acuity. So suppose it is 20/160. So reciprocal of that gives you 8 diopter, and then here you have got your starting point magnification, that is 2x. But in all the cases we are not using these laws, because that is based upon the distance vision. So the best one is to compare the near visual acuity to target visual acuity. See, you can use those in cases where if you are not able to calculate your or check your near visual acuity. So in those cases you can use that Lebinson's rule or Kesten-Baum rule. But the best one to calculate is comparing the patient's near visual acuity to target visual acuity. So just an example. So suppose patient best corrected near acuity is 4M, target acuity is 1M, testing distance is 40 centimeter, and new reading distance, required reading distance will be x centimeter. So that's how I have got the new required reading distance is 10 centimeter. And then here I have got my starting point of 10 diopter magnification. One more example. So what lens power would be required for a patient if patient wants to read 0.8M when the best corrected visual acuity is 3M. So just just see carefully, especially students, that 3M is the patient's best corrected visual acuity, near visual acuity. Required visual acuity is 0.8 m, and the patient is reading this at 24 centimeter. Required near vision reading distance will be x centimeter. So after calculation, I have got this, and then again I have got my required magnification starting point. So here I have a question for you all. Please attempt. Your patient best corrected visual acuity is 2m, and patient wants to read 1m. See, it's a very simple calculation. Most of you are correct, but just have a look so that you'll not get confused next time. Okay, so the patient best corrected near visual acuity was 2m. Patient wanted to read 1m. Distance was 40 centimeter. So the required near vision reading distance was 20 centimeter. So it is plus 5 diopter we will be using as a starting point. Okay, hope you'll not forget next time. Okay, so next, see these calculations fine, these magnifications ways also fine. The problem comes when the patient wants a longer reading distance. If your patient is a painter or a librarian, you cannot say no, I don't have any device for you. So then there comes a role of the telemicroscope. So it is nothing but when you are converting a afocal telescope system into a focal system, that is for a from infinite distance you are shifting it to a finite distance by using a reading cap. You will be placing a reading cap over the eyepiece of the telescope. Then it becomes a telemicroscope. So the biggest advantage is it provides you a longer working distance. So how you are going to prescribe it? Again, keep in mind, we have to meet the patient goals, but we have to prescribe with the weakest telescope, with the weakest reading cap, and then you are going to maximize the field of view for longer working distance. So how you are going to do that? Suppose your patient is reading distance chart with a 3x telescope. Then are you going to use that same 3x telescope for making a telemicroscope? No. I will choose the weakest telescope. So to make but equivalent power should be same if you want the magnified view. So suppose I have chosen 2.5x telescope with a 2 diopter reading cap. So 2 diopter reading cap means my working distance will become 50 centimeter and equivalent power will again become 12 diopter. Same like there I have used 3x telescope. So that was 12 diopter, and here 2.5x plus 2 diopter, that is again 12 diopter. So the equivalent power has become same, and even your patient has achieved the longer working distance for near work. So please keep in mind. Okay, so here I came to the end of my presentation, but before ending, most of the patient, whenever they approaches to us, they always ask what are the new techniques, can my vision improve in either by surgery or using different glasses. So I'm sure you all must have heard about the Google glasses. So these glasses are nothing but it will have a video camera attached, and whatever patient is seeing in front, that will tell you, it is attached with the headphone, so that tells the patient that in front there is a tree or somebody is approaching, and it is attached with the smartphone. So that way patient gets an idea. And even there are surgical techniques like implantable miniature telescope and retinal prosthesis system. So just a bit of an idea. Implantable miniature telescope, it mainly approved for patient of 65 years and older with the end stage AMD disciform scar which is associated with choroidal neovascularization. So what they are generally doing, after following the cataract extraction, they are implanting these small telescope into the capsular bag, and that's how it provides a magnification of around 2.2x to 2.7x central visual field. But then you will say the central vision is affected, so how you are going to magnify the views? So it will increase the retinal image, and it will extend from foveal to extrafoveal point. There will be little blind spot at the center, but since there is a magnified image, So patient will be able to see whatever is coming in front or whatever is in their central field. It is the image is magnifying till extrafoveal point. So the next is retinal prosthesis system. It is approved for patient in 25 years and older with retinitis pigmentosa, having almost no light perception or very little light left. So basically, what they are doing, they are implanting these prosthesis system in place of photoreceptors, and the signals are generated, and it travels as a neural signals towards the brain. So since it is traveling in a brain towards a through a neurosignals, so the important criteria here is the patient's visual pathway should be intact. There should not be any lesions in the visual pathway or optic nerve. So that we can suggest them the patient that there are these surgical techniques which are also available. Okay, thank you for listening me patiently. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Priyanka. I think very comprehensive talk, and I think we went across through the low vision device calculation. I think your main focus was to get on how to
Yes,
do the device
how you
calculation.
are doing starting point, correct,
Yes.
because you cannot start doing trial and error for all the patients. You have so many devices with you available right now,
Yes.
correct. Yes.
Let's look at some questions. So I see the first question here. Any
Yeah.
ideas on availability of retinal prosthesis system in India, or it's
No, it's not available. I have researched different papers. These are available in UK and US. And these Google glasses actually they launched in India, but it didn't become successful in India. I don't know because of lack of awareness or something like that. But these prostheses, it's not available in India.
okay? Okay. Does color texture in environment can affect vision since glossy colors produce glare effect in excess light? So any take, I would just rephrase this question, that any takes on explaining patients about the color vision perspective, because as when it comes to let's take an example of a glossy reading material, right? So when it comes to reading magazines, you have these glossy papers, the shining papers, so that would cause a
Correct.
bit of glare. So how would
Yes,
you go
yes.
about explaining these patients on
Yes.
that kind? Yeah.
See, first of all, these glossy paper, it's very difficult to read because of the glare. So there are different filters, and even these polarized glasses also helps. And one important thing is always whenever they are reading, their background should be having proper contrast. You can just see in the question now presently in the background. So there is white and black. So that's how the background has improved. So these glossy papers, no, it's not suggestible. If they are using it, if their vision is very less, they cannot properly actually use it. But if they have sufficient vision, there will be a glare. So please, you can suggest them to use the polarized glasses or the filters like CPF filters, which you can even use indoors as well. So that's the problem comes when you are using the sunglasses or these filters. Sunglasses you cannot use indoors, but these filters comes even with a clip-on holder, so you can lift it or you can lift it down when they are indoors or when they are outdoor.
Okay. That,
And but you can't do anything for the glossy paper. You will have to change the material or else go ahead with the different polarized filters.
or do you recommend using them? Additional sheets on top of it, something like filters, but not
Yeah, definitely.
polarizing material.
See, these non-optical system always helps them. So they can use this reading guide where there is contrast of black color, and then there will be a gap in the center, and they'll be keeping and shifting these papers in different lines, and that's how they can read it. Correct. Very good suggestion.
Yeah. So that can be done, and yep.
Yeah, correct. And filter, they can use always the glasses.
Yeah. So I think the main goal is to reduce the glare. So either by filters or either by using the additional devices in terms of.
Non-optical devices, correct.
That's right. The other question, which is kind of very interesting, do you think that any best? Do you think what is the best magnifier for the patient? That's the question. If you would like to comment on that.
Best magnifier, see, choosing a magnifier is completely a patient, depending upon the patient's need. So as I told you, your patient is having dexterity problem, old age people, always try to start with the spectacle magnifier. That is most acceptable one, because the patient, suppose the patient came to you, old age patient, and you have prescribed him or her stand magnifier, he's never going to use it. Cosmetically it will not look good, he will have this neck problem. So depending upon the patient's need, patient's age, you are choosing the devices. So there's nothing like and of course depending upon the patient's remaining visual acuity. So there can't be any best magnifier for any one patient. So
Yeah.
it's totally case dependent.
Is dependent. And I think the next question is kind of connected. I think a couple of people have asked this. When it comes to a low vision practice, let's say I'm starting up and there's somebody who just started up a low vision practice as well. How can I go about initial devices? What should I keep in my clinic? Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. See, so initially you have to have a distance chart, which should be an ETDRS chart, logMAR chart, or should be having any near vision chart, can be in N notation. Generally, low vision clinic we keep MN read chart, and then you should have a retinoscopy, which you all know. And large aperture trial lenses you have to keep, not the smaller one which you are generally using. So make sure you are using the large aperture lenses. And then you have to have different telescopes in certain steps, like you can keep spectacle mounted telescope, which patient can use binocularly. There keep certain monocular telescope which you can prescribe for if the students are coming, because that will be very handy. They can read and see the blackboard, both work writing and see viewing the blackboard. So you have to have a few telescopes, both monocular as well as binocular. And then of course the spectacle magnifier, certain page magnifier, dome magnifier. See, it's not necessary that you are going to keep 100 of devices. As a starting, you can keep in certain steps different magnifications available. And then even handheld magnifier which help them for the spot reading. Make sure again these pocket magnifiers which help them to identify the different types of currencies available. So these different devices you can always start, like if you are starting up, and further you can always improve.
Yeah, I think the basic ones would be.
Suppose if you can keep, exactly, and see together with low vision devices, these rehabilitation go hands in hand. Like suppose you have prescribed the low vision you have prescribed the telescope, but you are not teaching how to use it, then it's a waste. So you'll have to spend time on that as well.
Yeah. The patient should know how to use the device. That's
Yes,
also very important.
correct.
Yeah. How would you optically differentiate the telemicroscopes and when they are using the near devices? I think it probably are talking about devices as near. In cases of near magnification, would they have an additional reading cap which would be making it no difference?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. See, telescope, what is telemicroscope? When you are focusing, when you are making an afocal telescope to a focal telescope by using a reading cap, so then only it becomes a telemicroscope. So you are not using it for distance. When you are using a reading cap, this is for your near work itself. So, and these other devices, that is for near. So you're making an afocal telescope to focal by using a reading cap. And
Reading cap.
depending upon the reading cap power, your working distance will vary. So suppose if you have used 1 diopter reading cap, the working distance will be 1 meter. Or if you are using a 4 diopter reading cap, then working distance will be 25 centimeter. So depending upon the reading cap, your working distance will differ.
Yeah, that's right. So I think again, if you are prescribing it, you have shared with us how we are going to go about the calculation of the reading cap as well.
Yes.
So I think that would complete the question. Thank you very much, Priyanka. I think it was a wonderful recap of a lot of things, very important things in terms of device selection, which was the agenda for today's talk. Thank you once again for taking up the time and doing this session.
Thank you, Fakhruddin. Thank you, everyone, all the listener, and thank you, your complete team. You guys are doing a very nice job. Let me tell you, especially in these COVID situation when people cannot go out to study. Thank you so much for having me here.
Most welcome, most welcome. So just for everyone to know, we do have session tomorrow as well. It's about multifocal contact lenses. So it's at 6:30 Indian time in the evening, and it's at 9 p.m. Late evening Malaysian time. And until then, I would request you all to stay safe and see you all again tomorrow then. Take care and bye-bye.